I once had a conversation with a guy that I met in the gym who was doing different sports, but among other sports, he was doing semi-marathons and also marathons. So we started chatting, and he said that he would like to improve his time during his semi-marathons and marathons. He was an amateur marathon runner, obviously, not a professional one, but he was in very good shape, very lean, fit, and also he was very disciplined and very committed. And as we started chatting, the subject of nutrition came out, and he said something that most of you probably think is normal. He said, I remember I eat 6 meals a day because I need constant carbs for energy. And the only way to do that, obviously, is to eat multiply meals every day. So I remember I asked him a very simple question. I said, why do you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours when I don't? He paused, and he obviously couldn't answer. He couldn't answer because nobody has ever asked him the same question before. And then I explained to him something that changed the way he trained, the way he ate as well. And obviously I explained to him why his body produced energy. So I said, you're not eating because you need energy. You're eating simply because your body has become dependent on carbs. And once you become addicted to carbs, you simply cannot do different. You have to eat every 2-3 hours because your blood sugar drops down after every 2 hours, and you have to eat again. So what happened next shocked even him. His next marathon improved for 20% regarding the time. Most people are delusional about needing carbs because most people today believe that carbs equal energy, and more carbs equal better performance. Therefore, frequent meals means stable energy. But this is not simply how the body works. What they experience is not real energy, it's a cycle. It's a spike and then crash, and then another spike and another crash. And over time, your body simply forgets how to function without carbs. Now, let me be clear about something. I'm not talking about professional marathon runners because they're a completely different story. They're completely different physiologists. And what most people actually don't understand is that professional marathon runners who now just run under 2 hours, as we witnessed yesterday during a London marathon, these guys are not running at a slow pace. So they need completely different source of energy. But I'm talking about professional elite marathon runners. So this is different story. Now, what this story relates to is actually somebody that actually resembles all of us, or at least overwhelming majority of us. So I'm talking about somebody who is more or less the same as overwhelming majority of us, who needs a regular supply of energy during his activity. And I will explain to you actually how that works. So when the athlete is adapted to fat metabolism and uses predominantly fat for energy, he is avoiding that famous wall. So he is avoiding hitting the wall, which is glycogen depletion. Glycogen stores in the body are limited. Why? Fat stores in the body, even in the average lean person, are always so high that an average lean person has at least 100,000 calories available to burn. And this is a lot of calories. You can really perform for hours until you even come to burn half of that amount. Having said that, I also want to tell you there are professional marathon runners who rely predominantly on fat, but also there are others who rely on carbohydrates. But again, I'm not talking about the professional elite marathon runners. I'm talking about somebody who had a problem because he was eating in a way that was wrong for his goals and his attempts. And once we changed that, his marathon improved by 20%, which was phenomenal. Now I want to mention to you a famous study that was done by Volek and Phinney in 2016, and it's called Metabolic Characteristics of Keto-Adapted Ultra-Endurance Runners. So what they've done, they actually followed 20 elite endurance athletes. 10 of them were keto adapted. They had low carb, high fat, and high protein for 20 months, and also 10 athletes which were on high carb diets. So the protocol was they had to run for 3 hours, obviously 180 minutes, with average intensity of 64% of VO2 max. So after 3 hours run, they found out that muscle glycogen levels were not significantly different between groups, and that the glycogen depletion was also similar. This was really a spectacular finding. So specifically, there was 64% depletion in low carb group and 62% depletion in high carb group. So despite burning mostly fat, keto athletes preserved and used glycogen similarly to high carb athletes. So why was this shocking? Because traditional belief was that low carbs mean low glycogen means poor performance. But the study has shown that actually keto athletes had normal glycogen stores at baseline and also normal glycogen used during exercise. So they were burning 88% fat versus 56% in carb group. This suggests that keto athletes burn far more fat and spare glycogen, maintaining glycogen via gluconeogenesis. I have explained that in many videos, and also lactate recycling via Cori cycle. So they develop what is called glycogen sparing plus glycogen preservation. So this experiment has actually proved that human body can adapt to preserve glycogen even on very low carb diets if fat oxidation is high enough. So let me tell you a few words now about the glucose-insulin rollercoaster. So when you eat high carb meal frequently, what happens? Your blood glucose raises. This obviously triggers insulin spikes and energy goes up. But then insulin drives glucose down. Energy drops and hunger kicks in again. So what do? You have to eat again, obviously, because you're going to crash. And after 2-3 hours, you repeat the same thing. So if you do this 5-6 times per day, you are clearly developing something which is not energy, but is rather dependency. You become addicted to carbohydrates. And you remember this because after years of eating like that, you may get into trouble. Your metabolic health will deteriorate. Now, over time, something very important happens, and this is the fact that your body stops using fat for energy. And why? Simply because you feed your body with glucose all the time. And body simply doesn't have to burn fat for energy because this is much more difficult. It's much more easier to burn glucose, to burn carbohydrates. And this is why when people say carbs are a preferable source of energy. No, they're not preferable. They're simply easier source of energy. So when you constantly feed the body with glucose, your body doesn't have to burn fat for energy. And your body becomes efficient at burning carbs, but inefficient in using stored energy. And this is why people say, oh, without carbs, I feel weak. I need to eat every few hours, and simply I crash if I don't. No, your body has just lost that metabolic flexibility to also use body fat for energy. And if you are on my channel, you are obviously interested in muscle growth and fat loss. So if you enter this cycle and this environment of permanent dependence on glucose, you will never burn body fat. So this is why this story actually resonates with you more than you can imagine. And this is why I'm talking to you about this case. Now, let us go back to the conversation between me and my friend who run marathons among other sports. So his diet is 6 meals per day, high carbohydrates, medium protein, very low fat. My diet was 2 meals per day, high protein, moderate to high fat, very low carbs, or sometimes even zero carbs. So now you ask yourself, who should have more stable energy? The one, him, who is constantly feeding his body with glucose, or the one, me, whose body has access to body fat as stored energy at any time. So while he was adapted to use glucose for energy only, but never fat, my body has adapted to completely different source of energy. So I have been using body fat all the time for energy now for decades. Now you may be thinking, oh, but this doesn't apply to me because this guy was a marathon runner or semi-marathon. So obviously this story reflects him, not me. I'm just a bodybuilder. I'm going to the gym. But let me make this very clear for you. This applies even more to you if your goal is to build muscle and burn fat. Because most people today in the gym are doing exactly the same thing. They are eating every few hours, high carb diets, medium protein, and very low fat. They're constantly feeding their bodies with carbs and keeping insulin elevated all day long. And they think that they are doing everything right. And what happens? They don't lose fat. They don't build as much muscle as they hope they will. And also they feel tired without food. And why is that? Simply because their body is stuck in the same cycle. Their body becomes dependent on external fuel and unable to efficiently use stored energy. This is what most people actually miss. Muscle growth does not require constant insulin spike. Also, fat loss does not happen when insulin is constantly elevated. So what they are doing, they are blocking both of these processes at the same time, muscle growth and also fat loss. And this is why you see people train hard, eating clean, and following all advice, and still looking the same year after year. I see that all the time. You've seen that all the time. And this is not because they're lacking effort. This is because their system is not working efficiently. And this is why my approach was completely different to my friend. My meals were simple, protein and fat. Yes, my meals are very simple. They are just protein and fat, and this is it. No constant sugar spikes, no insulin rollercoaster, just steady, controlled energy. And while he was constantly eating, I didn't have to think about food for hours. No hunger spikes, no crashes, no urgency. And that's the difference. I was in control and he was simply reacting. He was addicted to carbs and I was free. So when you're addicted to something, whatever it is, you are not in control anymore. You become the slave of that particular addiction subject. I am completely free. I eat when I'm hungry, and that happens maybe 2, sometimes rarely 3 times per day. I don't think about food. I never have energy crash. I never have hunger spikes or anything like that. I just feel full of energy all the time. And this is what matters to you. So what happened when he took my advice on board? I told him to reduce the frequency of his meals, to increase protein and fat, and also stop depending on constant feeding of carbs. He was very, very skeptical. He looked at me with a smile. I remember his face even now. He said, Nash, are you sure about it? I said, I'm 100% sure. Why don't you give it a try? There is nothing you can lose. At least, you may improve. The worst, you can run the same time as you always did. And he finally accepted it. He tried it. And something interesting happened. His energy stabilized, his recovery improved, and his endurance improved. And in his next marathon, he improved his time for 20%. So what was the real reason actually that his performance improved? Not because carbs are bad, but because his body becomes efficient again. He was no longer dependent. He became metabolically flexible, and his body could use stored fat, maintain stable energy, and avoid crashes. And this is real performance. So let me repeat this again. This story is not related to professional elite marathon runners. I am not saying that carbs are useless, but for majority of people, for me, for you, for overwhelming majority, you don't need to eat them every few hours because you will simply become dependent on carbs. And then you're going to enter that glucose insulin roller coaster, which will stop you burning body fat and which also will not help you build muscle as you expect. You will lose control over your energy. And this is the real problem. And remember this, energy is not about how many times per day you eat. Energy is about how your body uses what it has. And most people today have never trained their bodies to actually do that. Now, let me remind you that after 40 years in bodybuilding, I have done 46 shows and won 17 titles. I also trained over 3,500 clients and helped them to get in the best shapes of their lives. I've published 12 ebooks for you, which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. And especially if you want to understand training and nutrition properly, start building muscles and burn fat, perform at your best, simply click on that link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. I have also recently published Bodybuilding Blueprint course in which I personally demonstrate the most effective exercises for all muscle groups. So the course is made of 8 videos in which I explain everything that you want to know about perfect form. So if you want to start building muscle, losing body fat, stop wasting time in the gym and stop getting injured, you have to learn how to exercise in perfect form. And this Bodybuilding Blueprint course would be your best choice in that case. So again, simply click on the link below in the comments and you can access my Bodybuilding Blueprint course. Guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, send me your comments, and I will see you in the next video.